the biggest story in Utah sports right now? If you had to just pick one, what is the biggest story, do you think?
I mean, I think people are most excited about the Jazz. That's what I think, everyone wants to talk about. That's what I think the talk of the town is, that they're winning and, they're not tanking. And it's just, nice to have a positive, situation with the Jazz, I guess, when everyone thought it was going to be negative.
Yeah, I've gotten so much heat over people saying, oh, the Jazz aren't tanking. And half the other people are like, the Jazz are tanking. And I still see Jazz fans so upset that they are winning games because I think Jazz fans wanted the suck. And they had embraced the suck. And then all of a sudden, there isn't so much suck to embrace, and all of a sudden, people can't be happy, right?
Yeah.
Well, as we tell you on this show, the Jazz are not tanking. Certainly not tanking. And I do believe that the Utah Jazz are the best story in the NBA. And I don't know, if you look across the league, I don't know that it's even close. The disaster that is the Lakers, the disaster that is the Brooklyn Nets, what's going on with the Golden State Warriors who lost again yesterday. Like, if you look at what's right in the NBA, how are the Utah Jazz not on top of that list?
Yeah, I think, the Utah Jazz are just overachieving, and I think that, there's this conversation raging about Will Hardy versus Quin, and, the differences between last year's team and this year's team, and why this year's team is having success early on here. And I think, yeah, I agree. I don't think that there's, another story in the league right now that kind of tops what the Jazz are doing. I think, Bogey getting paid was nice to see. I mean, Clay doesn't play last night, and the Pistons get a nice little win there. So that was a fun game to watch. But I think for Jazz fans particularly, as far as stories in the league, I think watching Donovan do what he's doing for the Cleveland Cavaliers is probably for a lot of Jazz fans not great. But I think there's also a good chunk of Jazz fans that are enjoying it. I think I think because the Jazz are good right now and they're winning games and they're having success, that it's a little bit easier to accept that Donovan Mitchell is frankly off to an MVP caliber start. There's no way around that. He's in the MVP conversation. He's certainly doing what you had said he was going to do all summer, which was average 30 points a game. I think he had 38 and 12 last night, I believe was his final stat line. So, yeah, I think the Jazz are the best story in the NBA. But I think for Jazz fans, they look around the league and they say, what could have been with Donovan? Why did we give Bogey away so easily? And now he's gotten paid again. So I think you're just working through these different scenarios around the league. And by the way, is it lost on anybody that the Lakers finally got a win last night? So, yeah. I think that's where you're at right now as a fan.
Well, and I also think there were a lot of people the other night talking about how Ja Morant didn't play, and I don't care if he played. You can't take away Malik Beasley's three. I think this team is built to win. I think it's built to win now, and I think you're seeing that they can go any direction you want them to. Let's say that they lose 8 out of 10 and fall out of contention. You can trade guys. You have pieces on this team that you would happily trade. I just don't think you're limited in any way, shape, or form based on anything you want to do. And I think you just follow the direction of this club. But again, I think it feels really good when you're winning the way that they're winning. It feels really good to be a Jazz fan right now. And I'm glad that we can say that on a regular basis, because I don't know that we've been able to say that the last 2 years, even though this was a team that people believed was a championship contender. Some people, we did not, but some people believe this team was a championship contender. I don't think it felt great to be a Jazz fan against the Dallas Mavericks. I think now it feels really good to be a Jazz fan, and you feel like you're doing the right things. You're playing good basketball. I do think it's hysterical, though, that people are trying to say that Will Hardy's already a better coach than Quin Snyder. After, 7 games or whatever it's been? Come on now. I think you have to guard yourself from getting too high as well, because Will Hardy's not a better coach than Quin Snyder. And Will Hardy simply is just inexperienced at this point. He's learning on the job. Is he doing a really nice job? Well, yeah, of course he is. Team's playing well, energetic. They seem to really like him and play for him. he's doing everything you want him to do. That doesn't make him a better coach than Quin Snyder. And I think it's really easy to go too far with that.
Yeah, 100%. I think that, little things like Jordan Clarkson passing the ball the way he is right now, is what gets Jazz fans kind of riled up about Will Hardy. And I also think that because of how negative last year's team was, I think that also plays into the Will Hardy thing. But I have to agree, you're 7 games in, and I think the best way to say it is these 7 games couldn't have gone better. You're 5-2. You're feeling good about yourself. I think this team. I think they're capable. You start to kind of put dots together, and you're like, yeah, maybe this team is capable of being a 500 team. Which is somewhere in that high 30s, area. You know what I mean? High 30s. I still am reserving myself from breaking the 40-win threshold because I think that every team has their 10-game slide. Every team loses 15-17. That happens every year. But I think this Jazz team, no matter what happens, is going to have a successful season if they don't go and make huge trades at the deadline. If this is the team we have all year, I think this is probably what you're going to get.
Yeah, I think, though, there are some definite things you have to clean up. I don't think there's any doubt that, the pass to win the game be damned. Jordan Clarkson's got to be a better basketball player. If Jordan Clarkson's going to be your starting 2, he's got to pass more, and he's got to stop with the crazy turnovers. I mean, obviously you're going to have to figure out your bench rotation even a little more. Other than that, the effort's been unbelievable. But the one thing that won't go away on this team is those 2 trades, Bojan Bogdanovic and Donovan Mitchell that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Man, I like looking at Bojan Bogdanovic. He got a big extension, 2 years from Detroit. He got paid. You feel like you kind of gave him away. And I don't know, man. I know Ja Morant's probably, if it was today, would be the MVP.
Right.
Donnie's got to be close. Are the Knicks not kicking themselves for not making the Donovan Mitchell trade? You look at the way Don is playing right now. How are you, as a Jazz fan, you got to hate it. But as a Knick fan, you got to really hate it.
Yeah.
Because now I think you feel like if you are Leon Rose, you probably regret not making that deal.
Donnie, please.
Yeah, on some level, I think that, you're sitting here saying, okay, if I could add Donovan and Jalen Brunson in my backcourt, I think that's obviously a dynamic duo, and I think it's really interesting watching Donovan play with these younger guys. I think it's a very energetic team, and I really wish that Donovan would have embraced this whole driving kick thing that he has seemingly figured out at a much higher level.
Yes.
He did it as a Jazz man, but at the same time, I feel like now he's doing it just at a much higher level. The way the passes are getting to guys, it's almost. It's almost as if it's just that he trusts guys more. And I know that sounds so simple and so just straightforward and cut and dry, but he's making these skip passes across the court from, the strong side elbow to the weak side corner where it's dude, where was that before? Because I can tell you right now, I didn't see a lot of that when you were wearing a Jazz uniform, and it's great that Dean Wade is having the start of the season of his life because Donovan Mitchell is spoon feeding him wide open threes.
Well, look at Kevin Love last night.
Yeah,
I watched pretty much every minute of that game, and Kevin Love was just moving around, and Don was looking for him. And you look at the fact that Donnie had 12 times last night. You look at the fact that he puts up 38 more points, 3 rebounds. He had a block shot and 2 steals in the fourth quarter that absolutely impacted that game. It's frustrating to watch his defense be much, much better. Honest to goodness, as a Jazz observer, and if you're a Jazz fan and you're frustrated, you should be, because his defense, I think clearly he spent a lot of the summer working on his positioning and his footwork. That is clearly better this year. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Is that a coaching thing? Absolutely, it could be a coaching thing. But it is amazing to me how much better he is. And I look at Rudy's game, and Rudy Gobert, I think, is the exact same guy he was as a Utah Jazz man. I mean, watching the Spurs beat the Wolves again yesterday, I was amazed. But you look at Rudy Gobert, and you start to see that he plays 27 minutes, 9 points, 12 rebounds.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, here we go on this roller coaster with Rudy again. Some games, he's the best player in the world. Other days, he's just out there. Right? And again, Karl Anthony Towns, 26 points, 11 boards, 4 dimes, and a steal.
Yeah.
2 blocks.
Yeah.
Like, I think they've got to figure out if Rudy can be a center and Karl Anthony Towns can be a 4. Because I think it's incredibly awkward.
Well, and I think, the difference there, obviously, is Karl Anthony Towns has a dynamic offensive game, and I think the struggle is just like it was in Salt Lake for Rudy. Like, there's, for him to have a big game, your team has to be struggling. Like, it's pretty straightforward, what needs to take place for Rudy to have a big game. And that's the tough part. Like, it's not that he's not a great player. It's the circumstances that have to take place for him to produce. It's not a make or miss thing. It's a, hey, is your team struggling and not shooting well, or are they making it a lot? Yeah. Like, that's the tough part.
Yeah, we shall see. By the way, Steve Smith gives us a $10 tip and says, what does the Big 12 TV deal between ESPN and Fox affect the Pac-12? We'll talk about all that coming up at 6:30, about 15 minutes from now right here on the Monty Show. Appreciate the $10 tip. Speaking of the $10 tip, wanted to let you guys kind of clue you guys in on what we're doing for the holidays. We're looking for a family to adopt for Thanksgiving. So one of the ways we're going to do this is, hey, we need you to DM us if you know of a family that's struggling and is going to battle to find a way to provide themselves Thanksgiving dinner. We'd really like to see if we can work with somebody and provide them Thanksgiving and give them a great meal at the holiday, but we need to know who that is. So what we'd like to do is have you nominate families that we can work with to provide them with a Thanksgiving dinner. All you need to do is DM me on Twitter or Instagram, The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show. When we did this last year, we got a ton of submissions. We will simply go through all the submissions, contact the folks, and make a decision. So we cannot help every family that gets, submitted to our show, but we will pick one family in this audience and we will help them. Whether it's your family or another family, simply just send me a note, DM me, tell me what's up, what's going on, and we'll see what we can do. But we need you to nominate families. So just hit me up on Twitter or Instagram, The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show, and just let me know what's up with that. And then one of the things we're going to do is we are going to ask you guys to tip us here on YouTube, and that money is going to go to pay for that Thanksgiving. So if you want to contribute to that, feel free. All of our tips go to things like infrastructure, go to our projects like, hey, helping a family for Thanksgiving. And depending on how many tips we get, we would like to help multiple families. But it's simply just a matter of, the financial wherewithal of it and how many people get submitted. So send us a DM, The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show on Twitter or Instagram. Nominate a family that needs help this Thanksgiving season, and we would really enjoy the opportunity to give back to so many people, because I think we talk about it a lot on this show that, without you guys, without our audience, we wouldn't be able to, to do the things that we're doing. We wouldn't be at Maverick Center. We wouldn't have a studio. We wouldn't have advertisers. Like, you guys make our existence possible, so we'd like to give back to you guys. So in order to do that, please do feel free to send me a note. And when I say, we'd like to give back, if it is just a turkey dinner, if it is, hey, you know what, my brother's water heater's going out and he can't afford to replace it, or whatever that looks like, we'd really like the ability to get back to you guys. So send us a DM, The Monty Show on Twitter or Instagram, and let's see what we can do. And again, all the tips that we get, for this go directly to that. All the money you tip us goes directly into helping people. So we really appreciate that. M. Alvarez says, I was going to say you can adopt me, but I am not hurting in any way. Appreciate you. Thank you for the $5 tip there. Let's get some of your thoughts again. We will, to Steven's tip, he gave us $10. Steven Smith, we will get to Big 12, Pac-12 coming up here in about 17 minutes on the Monty Show. But the biggest stories in sports, as always, are brought to you by our good friends at Quick Quack Car Wash. Hey, by the way, the grand opening of the Quick Quack Car Wash at the District in South Jordan is underway. I went through yesterday.
How was it?
Great. They were great. We drove up to Boise and back over the weekend, so of course my car was covered in dirt and bugs. 3 minutes in and out at Quick Quack. The car looks fantastic. But they're having a grand opening event at the Quick Quack Car Wash in South Jordan at the District starting November 16th. They are going to give away wash passes for a year for 12 days following November 16th. For the next 12 days, their top tier wash at Quick Quack is going to be free. It's going to be an amazing event. That starts on November 16th. Now, the wash is open already. And you know that there are Quick Quack car washes all over Utah. But, hey, if you want to go see a brand new one, it's at the District right there by the Grease Monkey. They're in the same building. And, again, it was great to roll up. It took 3 minutes to get through. Even though there was a bit of a line, we went through really quickly. Everybody was happy and smiling. And the best part about it is you don't roll up and put your card into an automated box, right? You actually deal with a human being that's friendly. They're nice. They explain, hey, the difference between the different levels of washes. Like, it's really just a great experience at Quick Quack Car Wash. And I think the biggest stories in sports this morning, certainly the Jazz winning again over Memphis. They play Memphis tonight again, by the way. Interesting that Memphis is a 3.5-point favorite in that game. The number's 234. I would guess Ja Morant will play. He's had a non-COVID illness that kept him out of the lineup on Saturday. I would guess Ja would play tonight.
Yeah.
And maybe that makes it a different story. I don't know. But I still think they're one of the best stories in the entire NBA, Jake.
Yeah, and I think that, Ja Morant aside, I think, again, they can only play who's in front of them. And yeah, I mean, I would guess that Ja does play, tonight. And I would guess that's why they have, that 3.5-point favorite leaning to them. But, look, I think that I think that regardless of who the Jazz are playing, I think the cool thing is that you're seeing sort of the path they're on and what they're doing with that. Because I want to keep saying I think it would have been easy for this team to tank. I think it would have been easy to just kind of go through it and kind of gift wrap it like, hey, we're doing the best we can and we suck, and that's kind of where we're at right now, But it very much feels like they're actually trying to win these games, and they're definitely working as hard as they can. I think everyone can agree with that. So it's just, I don't know how there's anything else that's a more positive story than what the Jazz are right now.
All right, let's get your thoughts in here. 10 minutes from now, we'll get into the Big 12 TV deal. We do have really good information on that. We'll share that with you coming up at 6:30. Tanner Plummer says, guys, good morning. Happy Halloween. Not a single trick-or-treater last night.
It's tonight. I bet it's going to go off tonight.
I was very happy there wasn't a single trick-or-treater. Mike Chase says, morning, fellas. Halloween, the Jazz. Happy Halloween. The Jazz look good. What do you think of the Big 12 media deal? So you're saying everybody wants to talk about the Big 12 media deal. We debated this before the show, and somebody said, no, we're leading with the Jazz.
He's just a hack.
Good decision, Jake. Salty Drunk says, morning, guys. Have a great show. Like, with Salty Drunk, what's the story? You're not being salty now.
Well,
Are
there's
you
a
trying
warm-up
to be
period.
like...
There's a warm-up period for him. His saltiness has to grow as the show goes on.
Okay. Mark Hale says, happy Monday. Kenai Johnson, top of the morning, fellas. Hashtag take note. Tanner Plummer says, is it just me or is Mont's voice lower? I don't know. I went through puberty like 40 years ago, so I think I'm probably good. M. Alvarez says, morning, boys. How about those tanking Utah Jazz?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else to say it. They're not tanking. Like, if one more person on Twitter hits me with the tank note hashtag, I'm telling you, they're not tanking. We've been saying that since July.
Yeah.
This team is not a team that's built to tank. BB, good morning to you, friend. He says, I'm excited, but the problem is that we're not good enough to win a title, but we're not bad enough to get a top 5 or 10 player in the draft. I still think we need to trade the vets and lose. I just don't think that's what Danny Ainge is here for. I think he realizes that you have almost no chance to get VW. And not Scoot Henderson. I mean, even if you lose every game, you still have very little chance of ending up there.
Yeah, 100%.
So Kyle J says, good morning, fellas. I wish we could have seen Donnie's play under Will Hardy. Me too. Me too. Tanner Plummer says, so that explains why Mont's voice is lower. He's a little under the weather. Not yet. Not yet. Brandon Whiteside says, best story would be a tank. Why, though?
Yeah.
Why do you want the Jazz to lose games intentionally? Why? Why do you want them to lose games? I've never understood this premise. You're hoping and praying that you win the lottery, and you have very little chance to win the lottery. Like almost none.
Yeah.
So why do you want them to tank? I don't get it. Because if you're not getting VW or Scoot, what's the point?
Yeah.
There is a lot of talent no matter where they end up in the first round. And my guess is they'll be a mid-first round team. They're going to get a good player. They're going to get a player that's going to make them better. Danny's got a pretty good draft history. Why do you want them to tank?
And by the way, they can trade up in the draft too.
Yeah, I don't know. Strange Cloud says BYU sucks. Okay. Thank you for that contribution. Long Gone Days says Jazz is a weird team, but it's working. It is, and they are. You're exactly right. I think that's exactly right.
Yeah.
They are an odd team. Brandon says not tanking is an awful strategy. Okay. You have to explain that. Thamer says, is the Laurie hate still going strong with you two? Who doesn't like Laurie Markkinen?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
I don't know I don't know that on this show we've ever hated Laurie Markkinen. Austin Brinkley says, I don't understand how you would want your team to suck for a low chance of drafting a guy that will turn into a superstar. Amen to that. What's up, Kurt Myers? Good to see you. Salty Drunk says, don't be naive, guys. The Lakers and Nets will get better, and the unexpected success of these lower teams won't be sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a conversation. I think that, like with the Nets, I would expect them to get better. I would agree with that. The Lakers, on the other hand, are kind of a different story. I don't trust that Westbrook is all of a sudden going to figure out how to shoot a basketball again. As crazy as that sounds, like obviously they get the win last night and they were celebrating in the locker room as they should. But yeah, I guess I don't believe that the Lakers are all of a sudden going to be a 40-win team, when they wake up tomorrow. Like I think that there are a lot of issues there. I think, the Jazz are a little different than the bottom feeder teams in the league. Like the Jazz feel like a team that hasn't gotten lucky. They feel like a team that has just like outworked other teams,
But I think that the Lakers may have found something with Russ coming off the bench, watching the first half of that game. There's one thing that I think a lot of people don't talk about with the Lakers. They're actually solid defensively. That's a team that can defend. I mean, you hold Denver to 110, that's pretty good. And again, the issue is shooting on this team. Russ came off the bench last night, 2 of 4 from 3, gave them a really solid 18 points. They got 10 more from Kendrick Nunn. Like, if Russ gives them 15-plus points off the bench, they're going to be very difficult to beat. And if he just shoots 30% from 3, they're going to be almost impossible to beat because they're going to get points. I mean, I think, AD, LeBron, and Lonnie Walker are going to score points for the Lakers. I think we all know that's 60 points right there a night. So they don't need a whole lot more. They need 3-point shooting. And if they go and make a trade, by the way, one other quick thing on the Lakers. Did you guys see that Jeannie Buss and her brother, the owners of the Lakers, plus Rob Pelinka, did not show up for George Mikan's jersey retirement ceremony? And do you know why they didn't show up?
No.
Because they didn't want to get booed and take the focus off of George Mikan. I actually think it was the smartest thing to do. Because if Jeannie Buss shows up with Rob Pelinka, what are the Crypto.com fans going to do?
Yeah, probably boo. That's probably true.
And it's going to overshadow George Mikan. And I think they actually handled that perfectly. But I'm telling you now, that Laker team can defend. And I know I'm the only one who thinks that, and I'm crazy, and I'm stupid and fat and sick, and your mom loves me. We get it. We get it. We get it. Long Gone Days says today's NBA is now role player generation. I don't disagree with that, actually. I actually don't disagree with that at all. I That's interesting.
Yeah.
It is. Mike Maples, good morning to you. Good morning, friends. I don't hate Don playing well. You said he would all summer. Yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's an MVP candidate. He's 30 points a game, man. Boyd Lake says, stop with the crazy turnovers. Talking about Zachy Poo. He was this close to beating the evil empire Bill Belichick. Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yes, he was. He just won't throw the ball to certain guys. And it's incredibly – he's a frustrating guy to watch. I hope he does well. I just have doubts.
Yeah.
I do. BB says Quin is better than – or Hardy is better than Quin. He's doing more with less, and the Jazz underperformed every year with Quin. Every year? No, they didn't. They did not underperform every year. With Quin, this team can't lose even though I want them to, and the assists are crazy high for a bunch of shooters. I think what you're seeing is you're seeing a group of guys that are, I don't know, is malcontent strong? It probably is, but you're seeing a group of guys that were cast off from other teams.
Uh-huh.
They show up in Salt Lake City, a guy like Lauri Markkanen, who plays at an incredibly high level. And he's on a team where he doesn't have to be the guy. And I think what you have is a bunch of B and C players with the Jazz playing together and elevating all of their games. That's what I think you have here. I mean, you look at Kelly Olynyk, he is a scrub on most other teams.
Right.
But they don't require him to do anything. They don't require Kelly Olynyk to score, 23 points the other night to win that game. They don't. But what did he do? He hit a huge three down the stretch to help them win that game. You look at Malik Beasley. Malik Beasley, 4 of 6 from 3. That's his job. Yeah. He's doing his job. Can he play linebacker and tackle? You look at the guys that they're getting performances from. It's Vando playing 23 minutes. 7 points, 7 dimes, 7 rebounds.
Yeah.
He's doing his job. That's what you have. You have a bunch of B players on this team that are doing their jobs at a really high level, and that's why they're winning. You don't have a bunch of A players that want to be the alpha and have everybody else. Like, that was the problem last year. Rudy wanted to be the best player on this team, and he never was going to be. You look at the pieces as they were put together last year. They didn't fit, and so chemistry took a beating. These are all B players right now on this Jazz team that fit together really well. They all want to do their job. They all know that, hey, if they're going to have an existence in the NBA, they have to do their job. Malik Beasley's well aware he needs to hit threes, and so he does. And that's why this team is playing at such a high level.
Yeah.
That's all this is. It isn't rocket science. It truly is not. All right, more of your thoughts on the Jazz coming up. By the way, the Jazz tonight are actually 3.5-point dog, but look at the number on that game. 234.
Yeah.
234. That's 117 points a team. So you're seeing a lot. The over-unders in the NBA this year are significantly higher than I remember them being.
Yeah, it's a lot of track meets. It's a lot of up and down, a lot of easy buckets.
Are you surprised the Jazz are getting that kind of love from Vegas?
I mean, I think, yes and no. Like I feel like, love from the standpoint of they're not a bigger dog. I'm not surprised because I think the boys in Vegas have a job to do and they have money to make, so it's like they need to keep the line kind of competitive and keep it front and center. But the 234 number is really interesting to me because I think that people are starting to learn what this Jazz team can do. This Jazz team is capable of scoring, 117 points. Like, they are definitely capable of doing that. And I think, again, Ja Morant probably does play tonight, and that's going to obviously alter the course of this game. But I think that it's still a tight game. I don't think that just because Ja's going to be in the game that all of a sudden they lose by 20. I think that they work just as hard as Memphis does, and that's how I think Memphis grinds a lot of teams out, is they just outwork you. They outpace you. They perform you in that department, and that allows them to get 15, 20, 25 extra points in a game just out of the transition game alone, and that to me doesn't exist against this Jazz team because they work so hard. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that they're getting, the Jazz are getting respect from the boys in Vegas. I think they've earned that respect. They've earned the respect of saying, yeah, this team is going to work hard and do their thing.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely right. All